Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What a wonderful day. Feels good, right? Yeah. I wanted to begin actually by speaking about my grandfather, Manny Nosen. He was a builder. And the parshiot that we're reading right now are very much about building, construction of the Mishkan. And it's not building like building a regular house. This is creative work. This is inspired work. This is artistic work. And the thing that I actually wanted to speak about is not the creation of a practical material, the construction of chomer, of material things, but actually the construction of a good name. I was always told that my grandpa Manny had a Shem Tov, a good name. And from a young age, when I heard this, it made me really proud. And somehow I understood that we weren't talking about a good name in the sense that like he was a good builder, like he built solid houses. I understood that we were saying he had a good name in the sense that he was a nice person. And that idea that I was descended of someone who had been kind, that really touched me. I was thinking about this because it's actually from this week's Parsha that we get the idea in our tradition that having a good name is something we should strive for in life. We're told that Betzalel, the artist who built the Mishkan, was someone who was singled out by name, that God called to him by name. And the rabbis, in trying to understand what exactly it meant to be called by name, land on this idea that having a good name is our purpose in life. There's a midrash in Shemot Rabbah where the rabbis are exploring what it meant that Betzalel was called by name. And they say, a good name is better than fragrant oil. So think about this with me for a moment. How could it be that a good name is even related to fragrant oil? What is fragrant oil for that matter? Perfume, okay? So a good name is better than perfume because how is it that perfume spreads? How does it waft? Oh, it might go from one chamber to another chamber. You might smell what someone in front of you who's wearing a great perfume smells like after they leave their place. And it might give you a momentary sense of satisfaction, and it fades. But it was nice while it lasted. A good name, on the other hand, a good name can travel from one end of the world to the other. So scent, even a good scent, is located in one place, but somehow a good name can spread. And we're told in another part of our tradition, in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors, that there are three crowns that we can have in life: the crown of Torah, the crown of Kehuna, or priesthood, and the crown of Melucha, or royalty. These three crowns, each of them you might interpret to be about study, about having a station or a status, and about having some sort of exalted status like royalty. All of them, we're told in Pirkei Avot, are superseded by a good name. But what is a good name? What would be the point of saying that a good name is so important and essential if a good name is something that truly outweighs all other attributes? Is it something that each of us can strive for in our lives? Or is it only attainable by the few, like Malchut, royalty, or priesthood? A select group of people get to be priests. A good name, it turns out, is actually something that every single one of us could have. And that, I think, is the power of a good name. I don't think we dwell often enough on how important kindness is, simple kindness. How we interact with one another, potentially in the moments when we aren't being watched, those are the things that actually define our lives. That is the quality that can spread from one corner of the earth to another. And in times where we actually have news from all corners of the earth, where we're able to be sort of artificially connected everywhere, it's really hard to remember that what each of us actually does in our smallest interactions is potentially that which matters the most. In the interpretation of this verse from Pirkei Avot that claims that the crown of a good name supersedes all other crowns, part of the interpretation lands on what the rabbis think is a kind of inversion that we all live with. They say we are mistaken because it is our convention that when a new life comes into the world, when a baby is born, we celebrate. And when death happens, when a life comes to an end, we mourn. And what the rabbis take note of is that on the day of birth, we actually have no idea what will be for this new life. This child has made no name for itself. It's done nothing to deserve praise necessarily. And all of our celebration is about potential. And potential can be good or it can be bad. Usually it's both. However, on the day of death, when you sit in a room and you speak to people about their loved one who is lost, it's not actually about the things they built in life that come to the surface. It's how they acted. It's who they were. Were they kind? Were they caring? Did they touch you at some point in your heart? And you're going to get to carry that forward. Those are actually the moments that define us more than anything else that we do in life, is how we treat one another. And in that sense, a good name and having come to the end of a life and being able to look back on it and say, they were a good person. That, the rabbis say, is something we could truly celebrate. So, back in our verse where we had this notion of a good name come to the fore, there's one more quality to it that I want to uplift, which is that in a different midrash, in a different place in our tradition, we're told that the importance of having a good name, a good reputation, comes in two parts. First, there's our name that is based on the reputation of our parents, of our family. We might inherit a good name. We might inherit from those who came before us, like I'm telling you, I felt from my grandpa. Or maybe it's more like you have an older sibling in school and they either were a good student and your teachers are excited to meet the next person, or they were a challenging student, and then you can really feel your teacher kind of, oh God, how's this one going to be? So in that sense, we inherit the reputation of those who come before us, and that's one quality to our name. But we don't actually inherit merit. We don't inherit kindness. A person acquires a second name based on what they do in life, based on how they individually comport themselves, based on how they care for one another. The thing that I felt leading up to speaking about this quality that we have in our parsha this week was actually not to embarrass you, Ella. Where is she? With her friends. Was that as I heard from, okay, I have an inside scoop. My husband's a teacher at Hillel. And he said, you know, I have to say, like, it's wild, but this is a really good person. Everybody knows that Ella's a good person. And I don't say it to embarrass you. I say it because we should not take for granted. We should pause and appreciate whenever we encounter people who are truly good in their heart. And true goodness is something that we can actually all cultivate. We can each be reminded to take the time to see the humanity in another person and to meet everyone who we cross their path as someone who actually being kind to them is going to change us and going to change them and thus change the world for the better. The thing I hope that you can take away from this teaching about cultivating a Shem Tov in each of our lifetimes is that each of us has the ability to have a Shem Tov. And that, I think, is why the rabbis land on this conclusion, that the thing that is above all else is actually the thing that is attainable by all of us, and that is actually the hardest to have, which is to walk in the world with humility, kindness, and love in our hearts. So I hope each of us can work towards that Shem Tov in our own lifetimes and aspire to have the end of our lives be a moment when everyone looks back and reflects, wow, that person was really a mensch. Shabbat Shalom.